Jake Martinez stood in the small room that served as his quarters on the space station. He looked at himself in the mirror and tried to fix his hair. Today was his wedding day, but he felt no joy. This was not the kind of wedding he had dreamed about as a young man. The marriage was part of a deal between Earth and the alien race called Zephyrians. Both sides needed to show they could work together. The best way to do this was through marriages between humans and aliens. Jake had volunteered because his commander told him it would help his career. Now he was not so sure. He had met his future wife only once before today. Her name was Lyra Veltar. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, with silver skin that seemed to glow in the light. Her eyes looked like pieces of blue crystal. She was beautiful in a strange way, but she scared him too. When they had met, she barely looked at him. She spoke only when someone asked her a direct question. Jake walked to the ceremony room. The space station was called Harmony Point. It flew around a moon near a distant star. Half the people on the station were human and half were Zephyrian. They were supposed to work together to study the moon below them. The ceremony room was simple. There were chairs for about 20 people. Human and Zephyrian officials sat on different sides of the room. Jake noticed that the aliens all sat very straight and still. They did not talk to each other like the humans did. Lyra entered the room a few minutes later. She wore a white dress that looked like it was made from metal threads. It moved like silk but caught the light like armor. She walked to the front of the room without looking at anyone. Jake stood next to her, but she did not acknowledge him. The ceremony was strange. A human official read some words about unity between species. Then a Zephyrian official spoke in their language. The sounds were like music, but Jake could not understand any of it. The translator device in his ear turned the alien words into English. "This joining creates a bridge between our peoples," the translator said in a flat voice. "Both parties accept their duties to maintain peace and cooperation." Jake had to repeat some words about honoring the agreement between their peoples. Lyra did the same. There was no exchange of rings. No kiss, no touching at all. When the officials said they were now married, Lyra simply nodded once and walked out of the room. The reception was even more awkward. Humans and Zephyrians stood in separate groups. Jake tried to talk to his new wife, but she was surrounded by other Zephyrians. They spoke quietly in their musical language. When Jake approached, they all looked at him with their crystal eyes. He felt like a bug under a microscope. "How are you feeling?" asked Captain Lisa Parker, the human commander of the station. She was a kind woman in her 40s who had been in space for most of her career. "Confused," Jake said honestly. "I don't think she likes me very much." "Give it time," Captain Parker said. "This is new for everyone. The Zephyrians are very different from us. They don't show emotions the way we do." Jake watched his wife across the room. She stood perfectly still while other Zephyrians came up to speak with her. Her face never changed expression. She could have been a statue made of silver and crystal. "Has anyone ever been married to one of them before?" Jake asked. "You're the first," Captain Parker said. "That's why this is so important. If this works, there will be more marriages. If it doesn't work..." She did not finish the sentence. After the reception, Jake went back to his quarters. He found that his things had been moved. His room now had 2 beds instead of 1. His clothes were in one closet, and the other closet held strange Zephyrian garments. Lyra came in an hour later. She had changed from her wedding dress into what looked like a military uniform. The silver fabric had a pattern that reminded Jake of circuit boards. She went to her bed and sat down. She pulled out a small device and began to read from it. "So," Jake said, trying to sound friendly. "This is our new home." Lyra looked up at him. Her crystal eyes seemed to see right through him. "This arrangement serves both our species," she said. Her voice was beautiful, like singing, but there was no warmth in it. "Right," Jake said. "But we're married now. Maybe we could try to be friends." "Friends?" She repeated the word like it was foreign to her. "I do not understand this concept in your context." Jake felt his heart sink. He had known this would not be a normal marriage, but he had hoped they could at least like each other. "Friends means people who enjoy spending time together, who care about each other." Lyra stared at him for a long moment. "I will perform my duties as required by the agreement," she said finally. "Nothing more is necessary." She turned back to her device. Jake realized the conversation was over. He lay down on his bed and stared at the ceiling. Outside the small window he could see stars and the moon they were orbiting. He had never felt so alone in his life. The next morning, Jake woke up to find Lyra already gone. Her bed was made perfectly with corners so sharp they could cut. She had left no sign that she had ever been there except for a faint smell like flowers and metal. Jake got dressed and went to the station's dining hall. He found Lyra sitting with other Zephyrians at a table near the window. She was eating something that looked like blue pudding. Jake got his human breakfast and sat at a table across the room with other human crew members. "How's married life?" asked Dr. Amy Chen, a scientist who studied alien biology. She was smiling, but Jake could see the concern in her eyes. "It's like being married to a computer," Jake said. "A very beautiful, very cold computer." "The Zephyrians are not emotional creatures like we are," Dr. Chen explained. "Their brains work differently. They make decisions based on logic and duty, not feelings." "Then why did they agree to marriages at all?" Jake asked. "Because they understand that humans need emotional connections to function well," Dr. Chen said. "They're trying to accommodate our needs, but they don't really understand what those needs are." Jake looked over at his wife. She was listening to another Zephyrian speak. Her face showed no reaction to whatever was being said. He wondered if she ever smiled or laughed or cried. He wondered if she could feel anything at all. This was going to be the longest assignment of his life. 3 weeks passed on Harmony Point, and Jake's life fell into a strange routine. Every morning he woke up alone. Lyra was always gone before he opened his eyes. She came back to their shared quarters late at night, when Jake was usually already trying to sleep. They rarely spoke more than a few words to each other. Jake tried to learn about Zephyrian culture. He read reports and watched videos that the human scientists had made. The more he learned, the more confused he became. Zephyrians did not shake hands or hug. They did not celebrate birthdays or holidays. They did not seem to have friends the way humans did. They live for duty, Dr. Amy Chen explained during one of their talks. Every Zephyrian is born with a role to play in their society. They spend their whole lives trying to be perfect at that role. "What's Lyra's role?" Jake asked. "She's a military strategist. One of the best they have. She's designed battle plans that saved thousands of Zephyrian lives during their war with the Krolix Empire." Jake had not known his wife was famous among her people. When he looked at her sitting quietly in their quarters, reading her reports, she just seemed like a very tall, very quiet woman. He never would have guessed she was a war hero. One evening, Jake decided to try something different. He had learned that Zephyrians ate their main meal in the evening, while humans usually ate lunch as their biggest meal. He thought maybe they could eat dinner together. "Would you like to eat with me tonight?" he asked Lyra when she came back to their quarters. She looked at him with those crystal blue eyes. "I have already consumed my required nutrition for today." "It's not about nutrition," Jake said. "It's about spending time together, talking, getting to know each other." "What information do you require about me?" she asked. Jake sighed. Everything was so literal with her. "I don't need information. I just want to talk. About anything. What did you do today? What do you think about this station? Do you miss your home planet?" Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Jake thought she might actually answer his questions. Instead, she said, "These inquiries serve no functional purpose." Jake felt frustrated. He had been patient for weeks, but he was starting to feel like he was talking to a wall. "Maybe not everything needs a purpose," he said. "Maybe some things are just nice to do." "Nice?" She repeated the word like she was trying to understand a foreign concept. "Pleasant, enjoyable, fun." Jake tried to explain, but he could see from her expression that none of these words meant anything to her. The next day, Captain Parker called Jake to her office. The captain's quarters were larger than most on the station, but still cramped. Photos of Earth and her family covered one wall. "How are you adjusting?" she asked. Jake sat down across from her desk. "I'm not sure I'm adjusting, Captain. I don't think this marriage thing is working." "What do you mean?" "Lyra treats me like I don't exist. We're supposed to be building a bridge between our species, but we can't even have a conversation." Captain Parker leaned back in her chair. "The Zephyrian Council contacted me yesterday. They're very pleased with how things are going." "Pleased?" Jake could not hide his surprise. "How can they be pleased? We barely talk to each other. From their perspective, the marriage is working perfectly. There have been no conflicts, no arguments, no disruptions to station operations. You're both doing your jobs." "But that's not what marriage is supposed to be about," Jake said. "Maybe not for humans," Captain Parker said gently. "But remember, this isn't really a human marriage. It's a political alliance that happens to use the structure of marriage. Jake understood what she was saying, but it did not make him feel better. He had volunteered for this assignment, hoping to make a real connection with someone from another species. Instead, he felt more alone than ever. That evening, Jake was in the station's recreation room when the new transfer arrived. Commander Ryan Walsh was tall and confident with dark hair and an easy smile. He had been assigned to Harmony Point to help with security operations. "So you're the famous married man," Ryan said when someone introduced them. "What's it like being married to an alien?" "Complicated," Jake said. Ryan laughed. "I bet. She's beautiful, though. I saw her in the corridor earlier. Those eyes are incredible." Jake felt a strange twist in his stomach. He had not expected to feel jealous about Lyra. After all, she had shown no interest in him. But hearing another man talk about her beauty made him uncomfortable. Over the next few days, Jake noticed that Ryan spent a lot of time watching the Zephyrians. He seemed particularly interested in Lyra. During meals, Ryan would steer conversations toward questions about Zephyrian culture. He asked Dr. Chen about their customs and their way of life. "Why are you so interested in them?" Jake asked one day. "They're fascinating," Ryan said. "So different from us, but so advanced. I wonder what it would be like to really understand one of them." Jake started paying more attention to his wife after that. He watched her during meals, during work meetings, during the rare times when she was in their shared quarters. He began to notice small things about her that he had missed before. When she read her reports, she moved her head slightly from side to side, like she was listening to music only she could hear. When she walked, she moved with perfect balance, never making a sound. Her silver skin seemed to change color depending on the light. Sometimes it looked almost blue, sometimes pure white. One night, Jake woke up to find Lyra standing at the small window in their quarters. She was looking out at the moon they orbited. The light from the moon made her skin glow like metal. "Can't sleep?" Jake asked quietly. She turned to look at him. For just a moment, her expression seemed different. Softer, maybe, but then it was gone. "I was observing the lunar surface," she said. "There are interesting mineral formations on the dark side." Jake got up and stood next to her at the window. He was careful not to get too close. He had learned that Zephyrians did not like to be crowded. "Do you miss your home?" he asked. "Miss?" she said. "Feel sad about being away from it. Wish you could go back." Lyra was quiet for a long time. Jake thought she would not answer like usual. But then she said, "My home world is very different from this place. The cities are made of crystal and metal. The sky is purple and there are 3 moons." It was the longest personal thing she had ever said to him. Jake felt like he had won something important. "It sounds beautiful," he said. "Beauty is not a concept my people understand the same way humans do," she said. "We appreciate efficiency, order, perfection. But you said the cities are made of crystal. That sounds like you care about how things look." Lyra turned to look at him again. "You think in ways that are strange to me," she said. Before Jake could ask what she meant, she moved away from the window and went back to her bed. But Jake felt like something had changed between them. It was small, but it was something. The next morning, Jake woke up to find a small crystal on his nightstand. It was no bigger than his thumb, but it caught the light and threw rainbows on the wall. When he asked Lyra about it, she said, "It is a common mineral from my world. I thought you might find it interesting to study." Jake held the crystal up to the light. It was the first gift anyone had given him in months. It might not mean much to Lyra, but to him it felt like hope. Commander Ryan Walsh had been on Harmony Point for 2 weeks when he started paying more attention to Lyra. Jake noticed it first during meals. Ryan would find excuses to walk past the Zephyrian table. He would nod politely at Lyra and sometimes say hello. She would look at him briefly and nod back. Jake felt uncomfortable watching these exchanges, but he told himself he was being silly. Ryan was just being friendly. There was nothing wrong with that. But then Ryan started asking more questions about Jake's marriage. He would bring it up during their work shifts or when they were having drinks in the recreation room. "Does she ever smile?" Ryan asked one evening. "Not really," Jake admitted. "Zephyrians don't show emotions like we do." "That must be hard for you," Ryan said. "Living with someone who never shows any feeling." Jake shrugged. He had been getting used to it, sort of. And lately, Lyra had been slightly different. She still did not talk much, but she seemed more aware of him. Sometimes he caught her looking at him when she thought he was not watching. "Have you ever thought that maybe she's unhappy?" Ryan asked. "Unhappy?" Jake was confused. "What do you mean?" Think about it. She's stuck in a marriage with someone from a completely different species, someone who can't understand her or connect with her. Maybe she wants something more but doesn't know how to ask for it. Jake had never thought about it that way. He had been so focused on his own loneliness that he had not considered that Lyra might be lonely too. The next day, Ryan did something that surprised everyone. He brought flowers to the dining hall. They were from the station's small garden, where they grew food and some decorative plants. Ryan walked directly to the Zephyrian table and offered the flowers to Lyra. "These are for you," he said with his charming smile. "They remind me of the color of your eyes." The entire dining hall went quiet. Humans and Zephyrians both stared at the strange scene. Jake felt his heart start beating faster. He did not know why, but something about this felt wrong. Lyra looked at the flowers for a long moment. Then she looked at Ryan. "What is the purpose of these?" she asked. "No purpose," Ryan said. "They're just beautiful, like you." "I thought you might enjoy them." Lyra took the flowers carefully. She held them like they might break. "I do not understand the significance of this gesture," she said. "It's a human custom," Ryan explained. "When we like someone, we give them gifts. We try to make them happy." "Happy," Lyra repeated the word slowly. Jake watched this conversation with growing alarm. He could see that other crew members were watching too. Dr. Chen looked worried. Captain Parker had a frown on her face. After that day, Ryan made a point of talking to Lyra whenever he saw her. He would ask her about her work, about Zephyrian technology, about her opinions on station operations. Unlike Jake's attempts at conversation, Lyra actually responded to Ryan's questions. She would give him detailed answers about military strategy and alien technology. "She talks to him more than she talks to me," Jake complained to Dr. Chen. "Maybe because he's asking her about things she's comfortable discussing," Dr. Chen suggested. "Work topics instead of personal ones." But Jake could see that it was more than that. When Ryan talked to Lyra, she stood differently. She seemed more alert, more engaged. Jake had never seen her show that much interest in anything. One evening, Jake came back to his quarters to find Ryan there, talking with Lyra. They were sitting at the small table, looking at something on Lyra's data device. "Oh, hey Jake," Ryan said when he walked in. "Lyra was showing me some of the battle formations her people use. It's incredible stuff." Jake felt like an intruder in his own room. "What are you doing here?" he asked Ryan. "I invited him," Lyra said, which shocked Jake. She had never invited anyone anywhere before. "She's brilliant," Ryan said to Jake. "You're lucky to be married to someone so intelligent." Jake did not feel lucky. He felt confused and angry and scared, though he could not say exactly why. After Ryan left, Jake tried to talk to Lyra about what had happened. "Why did you invite him here?" he asked. "He asked questions about military strategy. I provided information. But you never talked to me about your work?" "You never ask," Lyra said simply. Jake realized she was right. He had asked her personal questions, emotional questions, but never about the things she actually cared about. He felt stupid. Over the next few days, Jake tried to change his approach. He asked Lyra about her work, about Zephyrian technology, about the project she was working on. She answered his questions, but her responses were short and formal. Nothing like the detailed discussions she had with Ryan. Jake also noticed that Ryan was spending more and more time around Lyra. He would sit near her during meals. He would find reasons to visit the science labs when she was working there. He brought her small gifts, interesting rocks from the station's geology collection, rare books about military history, technical manuals that he thought she might find useful. "What do you think you're doing?" Jake finally asked Ryan one day when they were alone. "What do you mean?" Ryan asked innocently. "You know what I mean. All this attention you're paying to my wife." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Jake, can I ask you something? Do you love her?" The question hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. "What? Do you love Lyra? Are you in love with your wife?" Jake opened his mouth to say yes automatically, but the word would not come out. Did he love Lyra? He cared about her, sort of. He wanted to understand her. He felt protective of her, but love? "It's complicated," Jake said finally. "No, it's not," Ryan said. "Either you love her or you don't, and from where I'm standing it looks like you don't. You treat her like a roommate, not a wife." "This isn't a normal marriage," Jake protested. "It's a political arrangement." "Maybe it started that way," Ryan said. "But it doesn't have to stay that way." She's an amazing woman, Jake. She's intelligent and strong and beautiful. She deserves to be with someone who appreciates her. Someone like you? Jake asked. Ryan did not answer directly. I just think she deserves better than what she's getting. That night, Jake lay in bed thinking about what Ryan had said. Was he right? Did Lyra deserve better? Jake had been so focused on what he was not getting from the marriage that he had never thought about what he was not giving. He looked over at Lyra's bed. She was reading as always. The light from her data device made her silver skin glow. She was beautiful, Jake realized. Not just strange and alien, but genuinely beautiful. And she was brilliant. And she was his wife, even if neither of them had chosen it. Lyra, he said softly. She looked up from her reading. Yes? Jake wanted to say something important. Something that would bridge the gap between them. But he could not find the words. Never mind, he said. Good night. Good night, Jake, she said, and went back to her reading. It was the first time she had ever said his name. The formal dinner was supposed to be a celebration. Important officials from both Earth and the Zephyrian Empire had come to Harmony Point to see how the marriage program was working. Captain Parker had spent weeks preparing for the visit. The station's main dining hall had been decorated with flags from both worlds. Tables were arranged in a large rectangle so that humans and Zephyrians could sit across from each other. Jake wore his dress uniform, the one with all the shiny buttons and gold trim. Lyra wore something he had never seen before, a gown that looked like it was made from liquid silver. Jake sat next to his wife, but she did not look at him. She kept her crystal eyes focused straight ahead. On her other side sat General Mordak, one of the most important Zephyrian military leaders. Across from them sat Admiral Henderson from Earth Command and several other high-ranking human officers. Ryan Walsh was at the table too, wearing his own dress uniform. He had been chosen to give a presentation about station security. Jake noticed that Ryan kept looking at Lyra throughout the meal. The food was a mixture of human and Zephyrian dishes. Jake tried some of the alien food and found it surprisingly good, though it tasted like nothing he had ever eaten before. The Zephyrians politely tried the human food, but did not seem to enjoy it much. Admiral Henderson stood up when it was time for speeches. This station represents the future of cooperation between our species, she said. The brave couples who volunteered for the marriage program have shown us that we can build bridges across the stars. General Mordak spoke next, in the musical language of his people. The translators turned his words into flat English. This alliance strengthens both our peoples. We learn from each other's differences. Everything was going well until Ryan asked to speak. He had not been scheduled to give a speech, but Admiral Henderson nodded for him to continue. Ryan stood up and looked around the table. His eyes stopped on Lyra. I want to talk about what real cooperation looks like, he said. It's not enough to just put people together and hope they get along. Real cooperation requires understanding. It requires caring about each other as individuals, not just as representatives of our species. Jake felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. He could see where this was going. I've been watching the marriage program for weeks now, Ryan continued, and I've seen something that troubles me. I've seen people going through the motions of cooperation without any real connection. I've seen marriages that exist on paper but not in the heart. Admiral Henderson looked confused. Commander Walsh, what exactly are you saying? Ryan looked directly at Jake, then at Lyra. I'm saying that some of these marriages are failing, and when they fail, they hurt everyone involved. The room became very quiet. Jake could feel everyone staring at their table. He wanted to disappear. Take Jake and Lyra, Ryan said, gesturing toward them. They've been married for 2 months, but they barely speak to each other. They sleep in separate beds. They eat at separate tables. How is this supposed to represent cooperation between our species? Commander Walsh, Captain Parker said sharply, you're out of line. But Ryan was not finished. Lyra is an incredible woman. She's brilliant and strong and beautiful. She deserves to be with someone who appreciates her. Someone who can connect with her on an intellectual level. Someone who understands what she needs. Jake felt his face burning with embarrassment and anger. Everyone in the room was staring at them now. The Zephyrian officials looked shocked. The human officials looked horrified. Someone like you? Jake asked quietly. Yes, Ryan said boldly. Someone like me. He turned to Lyra, who had been sitting perfectly still throughout his speech. Lyra, you don't have to stay in a marriage that makes you unhappy. You deserve better than this." Then Ryan did something that shocked everyone in the room. He reached out and put his hand on Lyra's face, the way a human man might touch a woman he loved. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but Jake would remember it for the rest of his life. Lyra's crystal eyes flashed bright blue like lightning. She moved faster than Jake thought possible. A blade of pure energy appeared in her hand, drawn from somewhere in her silver gown. The blade hummed with power as it cut through the air. Ryan's hand was still touching her face when the energy blade went through his chest. He looked down at the blade with surprise, like he could not understand what had happened. Then he fell backward, hitting the floor with a sound that echoed through the silent room. The blade disappeared. Lyra sat back down in her chair. Her expression had not changed at all. She looked as calm as if nothing had happened. Ryan Walsh was dead before anyone could move to help him. The room exploded into chaos. Human officers jumped up from their chairs, shouting. Some reached for weapons. The Zephyrian officials remained sitting, but Jake could see tension in their perfectly straight postures. "Nobody move," Captain Parker shouted. "Security to the dining hall now." Admiral Henderson was staring at Lyra in shock. "What have you done?" she whispered. Lyra turned her crystal eyes toward the Admiral. When she spoke, her voice was as calm and musical as always. "I have executed a male who attempted to interfere with my bonding," she said. "This is required by Zephyrian law." "Your bonding?" Admiral Henderson repeated. "Yes," Lyra said simply. "Jake Martinez is my bonded mate. Any attempt to dissolve this bonding or to claim me for another male is punishable by death." Jake stared at his wife. In all the weeks they had been married, she had never called him her mate. She had never acted like their marriage meant anything to her at all. General Mordak spoke in his own language. The translator said, "The female acted correctly according to our customs. The human male's behavior was an act of aggression against a bonded pair. But he's dead," Admiral Henderson said. "She killed him. He chose his fate when he touched a bonded female without permission," General Mordak replied through the translator. "All Zephyrians learn this law as children." Jake looked down at Ryan's body. The man who had seemed so confident and charming just minutes before was now lying still on the floor. His eyes were open but saw nothing. "Did you know?" Jake asked Lyra quietly. "When he was bringing you flowers and talking to you, did you know you were going to kill him?" Lyra turned to look at Jake. For the first time since he had known her, her expression seemed to soften slightly. "I knew from the first flower," she said. "I was waiting to see how far he would go. When he touched me, he sealed his fate. Why didn't you warn him? Would you warn a predator before you killed it?" she asked. "He was trying to steal what belongs to you. I was protecting our bond." Jake realized that everyone in the room was listening to their conversation. The human officials looked horrified. The Zephyrian officials looked approving. "Our bond," Jake repeated slowly. "Yes," Lyra said. "You are my mate. I am yours. This cannot be changed by death or distance or time. Any threat to this bond must be eliminated." Jake looked at his wife, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time. She had killed a man to protect their marriage, a marriage that Jake had thought meant nothing to her. He was beginning to understand that he had been very, very wrong about a lot of things. The hours after Ryan's death were the longest of Jake's life. Security teams sealed off the dining hall. Medical teams confirmed what everyone already knew. Ryan Walsh was dead. The human officials demanded that Lyra be arrested for murder. The Zephyrian officials insisted that she had acted within her rights. Jake sat in Captain Parker's office while the arguments raged around him. Through the window, he could see the moon they orbited, cold and distant in space. He felt like that moon, isolated and alone even though he was surrounded by people. "We have a serious problem," Admiral Henderson was saying to Captain Parker. "If word of this gets back to Earth, it could destroy the entire Alliance program." "The female acted according to Zephyrian law," General Mordak replied through his translator. "To punish her would be to reject our legal system." "Your legal system allows murder," Admiral Henderson shot back. "Your system allows theft of bonded mates," General Mordak responded calmly. "Which is worse?" Jake listened to the argument but could not focus on it. All he could think about was what Lyra had said. "You are my mate. I am yours." The words kept repeating in his head. Dr. Amy Chen entered the office carrying a data pad. "I've been researching Zephyrian bonding customs," she announced. "I think I understand what happened." Everyone turned to look at her. "When Zephyrians bond, it's not just a legal arrangement," Dr. Chen explained. "It's a biological and psychological connection. Once bonded, they literally cannot form romantic attachments to anyone else. The bond is permanent and exclusive." "But Jake and Lyra barely interact," Captain Parker said. "That doesn't matter," Dr. Chen said. "From Lyra's perspective, the bond was formed the moment they were married. Her distant behavior wasn't rejection, it was self-protection." "Self-protection from what?" Jake asked. Dr. Chen looked at him with sympathy in her eyes. "From the pain of loving someone who couldn't love her back the same way. Zephyrians bond with their minds as well as their hearts. They share thoughts and emotions directly. Lyra couldn't do that with you, so she was protecting herself from the hurt." Jake felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "She's been in pain this whole time?" "Probably," Dr. Chen said. "And when Ryan started showing interest in her, it wasn't curiosity she was feeling. It was calculation. She was deciding when and how to eliminate the threat to her bond." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Admiral Henderson said, "This is all very interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that a human officer is dead." "Actually, it might," Dr. Chen said. "I've been working on something, a neural interface, that could allow humans and Zephyrians to share mental connections. It's experimental and it's dangerous, but it might be the key to making these marriages actually work." "What kind of danger?" Jake asked. "Brain damage, death, complete personality change. The usual risks of experimental brain surgery," Dr. Chen said matter-of-factly. "Absolutely not," Admiral Henderson said. "I won't authorize human experimentation." "I'll do it," Jake said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at him. "I volunteer," he said more loudly. "If it will help me understand Lyra, if it will make our marriage real, I'll do it." "Jake, you could die," Captain Parker said. "Ryan already died because I didn't understand what was happening," Jake replied. "I'm not going to let anyone else get hurt because I'm too ignorant to connect with my own wife." General Mordak spoke in his musical language. The translator said, "The human shows wisdom. We approve of this attempt." It took 6 hours to prepare for the surgery. Dr. Chen and her team worked frantically to adapt the neural interface for human biology. Jake spent the time with Lyra in their quarters trying to explain what he was about to do. "You could be damaged," Lyra said when he told her about the surgery. It was the first time he had ever heard worry in her voice. "I'm already damaged," Jake said. "I've been married to you for 2 months, and I never understood what that meant to you. I want to fix that." Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that shocked him. "I have been in pain since our bonding ceremony," she admitted. "Every day I feel the connection to you, but it is only one way. It is like shouting into an empty room and hearing no echo. Why didn't you tell me? How could I explain something you could not understand? It would be like trying to describe color to someone who had never seen." Jake reached out slowly and took her hand. Her silver skin was warm to the touch. "I want to see the colors," he said. The surgery took place in the station's medical bay. Jake lay on a table while Dr. Chen and her team prepared the neural interface. It looked like a small metal disc with thin wires coming out of it. "Last chance to back out," Dr. Chen said. "I'm not backing out," Jake said. The anesthesia pulled him under before he could say anything else. When Jake woke up, the first thing he felt was music. It was like someone was playing a symphony inside his head. But instead of sounds, the music was made of emotions and thoughts and colors he had never imagined. Then he felt Lyra. She was sitting next to his bed, holding his hand. But now he could feel what she was feeling. Relief that he was alive. Hope that the connection would work. Fear that it might not. And underneath everything else, a deep, powerful love that had been growing for months without any way to express itself. "Jake," she said, and he could hear her voice both with his ears and directly in his mind. "Can you hear me?" I can feel you, he whispered. Through the neural connection, Jake experienced 2 months of Lyra's hidden emotions. Her loneliness during their wedding ceremony, her desperate hope every time he tried to talk to her, her protective rage when Ryan started interfering, her decision to kill him the moment he became a real threat to their bond. I'm sorry, Jake said, and he meant it more than he had ever meant anything. I'm so sorry I didn't understand. Through their connection, he felt Lyra's forgiveness and love wash over him like warm water. I love you too, he said. And he realized it was true. Somewhere during all those awkward conversations and failed attempts at connection, he had fallen in love with his strange, brilliant, deadly wife. They did not kiss. Zephyrians did not show affection that way. Instead, they shared something deeper than any physical touch. They shared their minds, their emotions, their very souls. Captain Parker visited them the next day. The officials have reached an agreement, she told them. There will be no charges against Lyra. Ryan's death has been classified as the result of cultural misunderstanding. And the marriage program? Jake asked. It will continue, Captain Parker said, but with better preparation and education for everyone involved. Your experience has shown us how much we still need to learn about each other. After Captain Parker left, Jake and Lyra sat together by the window, looking out at the stars. They did not need to speak. Through their neural connection, they shared thoughts and feelings directly. Jake finally understood what Dr. Chen had meant about sharing colors with someone who had never seen. The universe looked completely different now that he could experience it through Zephyrian senses. Colors were more vivid. Sounds had texture. Emotions had weight and dimension. Most importantly, he could feel Lyra's love for him, constant and strong like a warm current running through his mind. She had been loving him all along, protecting him, waiting for him to find a way to love her back. His alien spouse had never kissed him in the human way, but she had done something far more intimate. She had shared her very soul with him, and when someone threatened their bond, she had killed without hesitation to protect it. Jake thought about Ryan Walsh, dead because he had not understood the depth of Zephyrian bonding. It was a tragedy, but it was also a lesson. Love between species was not impossible, but it required more than good intentions. It required understanding, sacrifice, and the willingness to become something new. Through their connection, Jake felt Lyra's agreement with his thoughts. They were no longer human and Zephyrian trying to coexist. They were something new, a bonded pair whose love bridged the gap between worlds. Outside their window, the stars shone cold and distant. But inside their shared mind, Jake and Lyra had found warmth that would last forever.